Chapter 11, Cancer Epidemiology. Chapter 11 has a lot of material that you will not be tested over. There's a lot of detail in it. What I would recommend is taking an hour or so and do a quick read-through of the first few pages of the chapter and then start up again with the environmental factors. If that seems like too much detail, and hopefully the first few pages for sure would not be, the chapter summary is a good place to end at. The summary of it gives a summary of the entire chapter in just a couple of pages, and it breaks it up into obvious sections. But what I'm looking for chapter 11 is really the big picture of where cancer comes from. So objectives, no, you just need to know it all, which that scares people. But really there's not a whole lot of information in the slides. There are only 5 slides total, and slides 2 through 4 will be the most important. You do need to know the term epigenetics, which is defined in the notes section. I will not be asking you to list all 15 circles in figure 1, but be familiar with it so that you could answer what I would consider a bigger picture type question on the exam. There is a short 3-minute video, a YouTube video that also covers this material, and that's actually really good, and it might actually be helpful on your assignment. Alright, so the development of cancer. What causes cancer? Alright, there's probably few cancers where you can actually say this one event caused Joe Bob's cancer. The reason for that is because in almost every case there will be a combination of events that are specific to that person, his or her genetic makeup, as well as a host of other genetic events and for sure environmental factors. As far as the genetics go, we all inherit genes from both our mom and dad. It is a random event. We know that certain genes or mutations in genes can make a person more likely to get different types of cancers. But there are also mutagens in our environment that can mutate the genes that we have and cause them to be more likely to cause cancer, or cause a cell to become cancerous. The development of cancer is not usually because of a one thing or one mutation. As you saw in figure 10.2, a cell usually has to accumulate multiple mutations before it stops acting normal and starts behaving abnormally. So age is a risk factor for cancer, but it's not a cause. That's important to remember. Usually cancers are seen more often in older adults rather than children. Why? Because age is a risk factor. Alright, remember, older people have older cells, and those cells have had time to accumulate mutations. So remember, the different rows of cells or mutations in figure 10.6 could be decades apart from the first one cell at the very top of the pyramid, so to speak. That's when you're born, and then you get a mutation. That might be when you are 30 years old, and then another 10 years go by before you drop down to that third row of cells where you have 2 mutations, and so on. Now, with the cancers that strike children, there are probably seen major genes that are defective or a very strong mutation that the child was exposed to very early on in age. Alright, so important to remember that it's not a one-hit disease. Alright, no one-hit wonders here. Viruses are strongly correlated with different types of cancers. Cervical cancer is a major cancer that show a high or strong correlation with human papillomavirus infections. It is not officially a cause because there are about 15 to 20% of cervical cancers that do not show viral infection. And just because a person contracts HPV in the cervix, that does not mean that they will develop cancer. There are numerous cancers that are associated with human herpes viruses. Bacteria have a less defined role in cancer, probably because it is usually easier to treat a bacterial infection and have the body get rid of it. However, a majority of patients who develop stomach cancer are known to have had problems with stomach ulcers, and 90+% of patients with stomach ulcers show signs of Helicobacter pylori infection, a bacterial infection. But in this case, what's important to remember in terms of that stomach cancer and association with Helicobacter pylori, the development of cancer really has to do with the chronic inflammation. But the chronic inflammation is probably, if not 100%, due to that bacterial infection. All right. So this is a good figure that is a new figure for edition 6. This is a more complete list than what you saw on the previous slide, and I took my non-fancy version of my diagram out. But here you have the key associations and the causes of cancer. One cannot say that one circle, let's say alcohol itself, can cause or is a cause of cancer. And we'll look at being overweight here. Just because someone is overweight does not mean he or she will get cancer, because there are a lot of people who are overweight who do not develop cancer. But rather, as you look at this, I hope you can see how each of these can be associated with cancer, and then when you have multiple of these associations coming together, how cancer can and does develop. You have sun exposure here, being sunburns, sunbeds, highly associated with a person developing skin cancer. But maybe that person also smokes and drinks alcohol, and so that could be very likely. Occupational hazards. This is one where there's a strong correlation between some types of jobs and that person developing a cancer. But, lack of physical exercise, bad diet, lack of fiber, bad diet, processed meat, bad diet, lack of fruit and vegetables, bad diet. All right, if you are an extreme case here, all right, having a bad diet, really bad diet your entire life, you could possibly be overweight. You could be indoors a lot and deal with indoor pollution. You could be postmenopausal and have different hormone issues. All right, all of these can come together and create a perfect storm. But again, it's not a guarantee. All right, so I'm going to bring some humor into this. This is not a cool picture, or not a cool figure, and it's definitely not one of my favorites. In fact, I actually really do not like it at all. All right, maybe I'm hitting a midlife crisis or something, but I look at this picture and I see myself there on the left, right here, as a tween, a teenager, all right, not skinny by any means, but on the slender side, kind of tall and slender. And then came college, and then marriage, and then a kid, and then NNU. Great place to work, but professors' jobs can be stressful. And then another kid, and then at that point I developed the urge to drink coffee with a lot of sugar in it. And then there was, then I bumped it up to 2 cups of coffee a day, still with lots of sugar. And over time, this is where I feel that I'm at, all right? Not slender anymore. Okay, enough of that, but wanted to give you something to laugh about. All right, my dry humor coming into lecture right now. So, midlife crisis, me, maybe, probably not, just not liking this picture. But, unfortunately, it's probably more characteristic than it should be in our society. So, at each stage you can see the different lists of risk factors that may play in. So, age, hormones, diet over here, the person is still relatively slim, slender, and now maybe the person starts to develop poor habits, brings alcohol into the picture, starts smoking, is exposed to more carcinogens just over time naturally or by a job, viruses. Now you can develop cancer. All right, here. Now this person is getting older, overweight. As you get older, your immune system naturally decreases its efficacy. And yeah, so I don't drink alcohol, so you can cut this out. Never was interested in it before coming to NNU as a student or as a professor. Never started smoking, never smoked in my life. But, you know, this might be where I'm at. Getting a little older, weaker immune system, could lose a few pounds, could have a better diet, definitely age, can't stop that. All right, all of these different environmental factors are going to influence how our genes react to life. All right, we can't do anything about our genetics, but this is where the term epigenetics comes in. Epigenetics is the study of changes in a person that cause modification to your gene expression. You can't change your actual DNA, but there can be changes to how that DNA is expressed. And then if that DNA is expressed differently, then that could alter, where's the cursor? That could alter how you look and how your body responds to different things. So, the study of changes in an organism caused by modifications of gene expression rather than the alteration of the genetic code itself. So our internal environment inside our body, our genetics inside of us, changes due to our external environment. All right, all of this is external, well, most of it. All right, age, alcohol, diet, smoking, obesity. Those are factors that are influenced by our external environment, and therefore our genetic components are changed or are altered. All right, now, on the previous slide, I mentioned that I've never smoked before. All right, why? Not really because of what is in this figure. And this is just kind of a scary figure, but it's a good figure. As a kid, I knew smoking was bad for me. All right, that's simple to say. And I never fell into peer pressure to smoke because I was too scared of breaking a rule and getting caught. Really, let's be honest. As an adult, though, I am truly aware of most of these, right? Even before looking at this figure. Not necessarily because of my education, but just I read the news, or I listen to the news, I read the newspaper. I can see all of this playing out in society. All right. So, if this figure is not eye-opening to what one single activity, smoking, does to you, right, I don't know what else to say. We will certainly touch on some of this information again as we get into the different body systems, specifically the respiratory system, but also the cardiovascular system. So, nothing specific from the exam or on this figure is going to be on the exam. But I wanted you just to take a moment and spend a couple of minutes to look at it and think about the ramifications of what smoking does to a person's body. And then even substitute alcohol into that. Right? You may not have as many issues here with alcohol, but you're still going to have a lot. Right? Very poor diet. You can bring a lot of these things or keep some of these things into the picture. So that's all for Chapter 11.